Tom Brady takes center stage at a joint practice that he wasn't even there for. But there may have been some things happening on the field that are going to impact the Buccaneers much more once the season starts. We're going to get into all of it on this episode of Locked On Bucs Podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Bucs Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And we thank you for making us your first listen or view of the day. I am James Yarcho, reunited with my co-host, David Harrison. You can check out all of his written work over at Sports Illustrated's BucsGameDay.com. Check out mine at SB Nation's BucsNation.com. And, of course, follow along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, and at DHarrison82.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Bucs Podcast first listener, first view of the day. Today's episode brought to you by Elias. Their app lets you access team and player stats, head-to-head team comparisons. Give yourself the edge this NFL season. Find Elias Game Plan in the App Store or the Play Store today. Injuries were already stacking up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this preseason. Now they're starting to pile up as a joint practice with the Tennessee Titans continue Thursday. More on that in a bit, but first, when is Tom Brady coming back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? That is the question that once again everybody wants to know the answer to, and that is a question that Todd Bowles was asked after practice Thursday, and what he said got some people thinking a little bit more than maybe they were before, saying, quote, "We'll see. We'll talk about it next week. I'm not concerned about it right now. We're trying to practice against Tennessee and play a game. I said sometime after Tennessee. There's no definitive date for me. We'll keep in touch and find out." End quote. Now, this was a little bit confusing given the fact that when Brady left camp last week while the Dolphins were in town, Todd Bowles had said it was something that was prearranged and that he knew about it and that they knew about it before camp even began. So it does beg the question, if it was pre-planned, why is there no pre-planned return dates? And regardless, is there now a reason to be concerned? James Yarcho, your answer.
This is slightly concerning. And for those that didn't listen or watch to Wednesday's episode where Evan Klosky was on, we talked about this where Evan said, you do have some flags going up. And while it's true that this is Tom Brady and he doesn't need the training camp reps, he doesn't really need to be there. We know he's going to be ready. Also, this is a really weird situation, and this isn't normal. Both of these things can be true. Now, David, you and I talked about it last week when we got the news about Brady being out. Yeah, if this was pre-planned well before training camp, why don't they know when he's going to be back? So now alarm bells are starting to go off for me that something's not right. Something weird is going on. What that is, obviously, we don't know. But, when you say, oh, yeah, this is no big deal, we've known about this, then you turn around and 1 week later you're like, yeah, I don't know. We'll figure that out next week. I just said he was coming back after Tennessee. He may not be back until, I don't know, an hour before kickoff on September 11th. We don't know. It's alarming. And it's really, I'm not sure what this means for the Buccaneers. I'm not really sure what this means for Brady's focus or his mentality heading into the season. This is a guy that he's always 100% all in all the time. This doesn't seem like something that's going to be conducive to a Brady-like season, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. I mean, listen, this is, people talk about quarterbacks, talk about guys like there's game managers, right? Guys that won't lose you the game, a la Brad Johnson, Super Bowl champion. And then there are guys that are good quarterbacks, but still need good players around them to make things happen. You look at guys like Dak Prescott. And then there's guys that elevate the people around them and make everybody else better. That's where Tom Brady comes in. Typically, it's where Aaron Rodgers comes in, stuff like that, right? So when you look at the guys who elevate everybody, right? What's another word that people usually tie to those people? Leaders. And for those who aren't Packers fans and don't keep their ear tuned to the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers recently led a meeting of quarterbacks, wide receivers, offensive coaches in Green Bay because the wide receivers that they have on staff right now not really getting on the same page with quarterbacks. So he was like, you know what? We need to come together and get this thing figured out because we've got a big season ahead of us and we want to make sure it's successful. That's what leaders do. The most effective leaders in the world are three things: present, passionate, and professional. Tom Brady is definitely passionate. He's definitely professional. He knows what to say, what not to say. Right now, he's not present. And that's a problem because you can't be a truly effective leader if you're not all three. Now, I've said this before time and time again. We've talked about this. Not everybody in a leadership position is actually a leader. Tom Brady, typically considered a leader, right? But right now, he's not there. So right now, to call Tom Brady a leader of this team wouldn't be completely true, I suppose. Now, he's imparted some things on people, and they've talked about it, and the players are giving him all a pass, saying he's earned this opportunity. And by reputation, I would agree that he's earned this opportunity, but it does kind of beg the question, how much is Tom really looking to be a truck, right? Let's go back to the Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks scouting terminology, trucks and trailers. Trucks pull other people, trailers have to get pulled. How much is Tom Brady really looking to be a truck, and how much does he want to just kind of show up and say, look, I'm good. You guys just do your part. I'll do my part. That's not really a leadership approach. You know what I mean? But does he really need to have that leadership approach? I don't know. There's a lot of talent on this roster. So is it concerning? Honestly, I'm going to give Todd Bowles a little bit of a grain of salt. Not that he needs it from me by any means, but I almost wonder if this was more his way of just trying to get rid of the question and turn the focus back on everybody that's there in Nashville, right? Because he says, we'll see. We'll talk about it next week. I'm not concerned about it right now. We're trying to practice against Tennessee and play a game. That could be taken the way that it's basically being taken, as in, I don't have any idea when Tom is coming back. Stop asking me. I'm worried about this. Or it could also be, I don't know, guys. I don't want to talk about that right now. Let's talk about who's here and what's happening here. I could see it going both ways. And Todd, just kind of given his public persona and the way that he's always addressed the media, you know, sometimes words get misconstrued and get taken as another thing. And also, Todd is not a guy who is necessarily going to feel like, you know what, let me text Rick Stroud or Greg Allman and clarify what I actually meant in my comment. He's going to let us all run wild with this. And you know, we're not freaking out, but some people are freaking out. Is there something to be worried about? I think anytime your best player on your roster is absent, there's something to be worried about right now. Is there something to panic about, as in, oh no, there goes our season? I don't think so. I don't believe that's what's happening here. You know, because honestly, the Buccaneers, if Tom's not coming back, the Bucs have no reason to protect him. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's really no reason for them to hide that for him other than letting him control the narrative, which is a weird thing to focus on during this time of season. But it's weird. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's weird. Like, that's the best way I can put it. I don't know if people should be freaking out about it necessarily, but it is weird, unorthodox, unprecedented. I don't know if any quarterback has ever done this before.
I think it probably is unprecedented, especially, you know, right smack dab in the middle of training camp. Like, look, they got one shot at this. One shot before they hand the reins over to Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask or try to trade for somebody or sign a free agent quarterback. I would say that Tom is the most important piece of the puzzle. And if he's not here, if he's not all in, if he's just going through the motions because he almost felt an obligation to return after all of the madness that went down with the tampering reports and all of that, then this is going to be a really disappointing season for the Bucs.
Potentially. We'll see how it goes. So, you know, we're playing it day by day as it goes. But there is a game coming up. There is something to talk about. And unfortunately, there are people getting hurt in Nashville, James. How big of a deal is all of that and all the wounded that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are collecting? We will talk about that here in a minute. But before we get to that, level with me, everybody. Every once in a while, we get into a situation where we're a little tight on cash. Maybe we can only afford to put a few gallons of gas in the tank. Or my favorite example is maybe we're stretching the groceries a little bit until the next paycheck comes through and we can restock the cupboards. If you're out there living paycheck to paycheck or struggling to make ends meet, it can be really stressful, especially when unexpected expenses come up. And now Dave can help you get out of a pinch when you really need it, because while you can't change the past, what if you could reach into the future and get a helping hand from future you? Well, now you can with Dave, the banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. That's more money to fill that tank, buy those groceries, catch up on the bills, whatever you need to do. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you out without any hangups, because there's no interest and there's no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from future you. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That's DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. Future you will thank you. Thanks for making Locked On Bucs podcast first listen or your first view every single day. However you play, get the latest NFL fantasy draft tips from the Locked On Fantasy Football and Locked On Dynasty podcast. Plus, starting August 22nd, we're bringing you daily top 10 lists for Fantasy Draft Week. Locked On Fantasy Football and Locked On Dynasty available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Heavy on the running backs early in your drafts, people. Trust me, you'll thank me later, because injuries always happen at the running back position. And James, injuries have been stacking for the Buccaneers. Now they're starting to pile. None of them are coming from the running back group, ironically enough.
Well, Kenyon Barner.
Oh, Kenyon Barner. You know what? I apologize to Kenyon Barner. That's 100% true. Coming into Nashville, James, the Bucs already had injuries suffered by Chris Godwin, which obviously dates back to last season, but he's still recovering, so he still counts. Don't at me. Ryan Jensen, Brashad Perryman, Mike Evans, Russell Gage, Cam Gill, and Kenyon Barner. Also, a couple other guys that were cut with injury designations. No offense to them, but those are kind of the key guys that we knew were going to make the roster or are going to make the roster. Since arriving to Nashville, Keanu Neal has joined that list. Tristan Wirfs has joined that list. And rookie cornerback Zyon McCollum has joined that list. Now, as of right now, from what we know, right, which is very limited because during this time of the season, the Bucs really don't have to diagnose a whole lot other than this guy's not practicing because he's hurt. Ryan Jensen is the only player on that list out of all those players thought to be a guy who's probably going to miss extensive time. Of course, Brashad Perryman hasn't practiced since early August, so maybe you consider him a guy who's already missed extensive time, which would be fair, I think. But just to kind of clarify that. So as of right now, like, it's a long list, right? But that long list also may not actually be, I don't know, think about making a road trip playlist with nothing but ringtones. Like, it looks like a long list, but it may not actually last very long. So James, go ahead and tell the good people why they should be freaking out about this list of injuries.
Don't. That's the best advice I can give. Look, Tristan Wirfs returned to the practice field without pads on. I don't think he returns to the field if the injury was that serious. It was listed as a ribs or abdomen injury. Might have gotten popped, might have had some bruising. Could have been, really any number of things. But like I said, you don't return to the practice field if it's something majorly serious. Now, Zyon McCollum, he was still out there on the practice field, not participating, with ice taped to his hamstring. And I think Keanu Neal is also either a hamstring, might have been a knee of some sort, but I don't think any of these are, flip out and be concerned. And these guys are going to miss week 1 against the Dallas Cowboy level events. And on the flip side, you had Chris Godwin in these joint practices participating in 7-on-7. So that's another step towards a return rather than, him still only doing the individual drills, doing side work with Ryan Griffin and things of that nature. So that is some good news. But I don't know why it feels like we talk about this every year, probably because we have to talk about this every year. But the soft tissue injuries for the Buccaneers seems like a guarantee. And it's a lot of times it's the same guys. We talk about Mike Evans' hamstring every single year. We talk about players in the secondary and their hamstring every single year. What is going on?
I don't know. It's interesting. And I know Bucs fans want an answer better than I don't know, but I truly don't know. I'm not a medical person. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a sports trainer or personal trainer. I honestly don't know. And I can tell you that the people they have on staff are a lot more smarter. Wow. They're a lot smarter about these things than I am, if that wasn't evidence enough for you. Yeah, but look, I don't think it's time to panic, right? Because there's a lot of guys that are on this list, but there's also got a lot of guys on the mend, right? You mentioned Chris Godwin, obviously. Brashad Perryman, listen, I'm a Brashad Perryman guy. You guys know that, especially in Tampa. Like he's, for whatever reason, man, when he puts on a pewter helmet, he just balls out. So whoever signs him when he gets cut by the Buccaneers, just change your helmets to pewter and he'll probably have an all-pro type season. But Mike Evans, like we've already seen him running, right? He's not on the practice field. He's not doing 7-on-7s team drills. He's not playing in the preseason. Got it. But we've seen him running with our own two eyes. I talked to him after practice one day while I was down there in Tampa. Told him, I said, hey, I saw you running over there. You look pretty good. How do you feel? He said, I feel good, man. I'll be okay. Could he be lying to me? Absolutely, he could be lying to me. But again, when I watched him run, he looked pretty good. And even at half speed, so runs faster than I ever do. Russell Gage, he's the one I'm really kind of concerned with. Obviously, Cam Gill's deal is what it is. And now Carl Nassib is in town because of it. But Russell Gage is the one I'm really kind of concerned with because to me, he's kind of a guy, he brings a different level of play, a different flavor of play to the wide receiver group that some of these other guys just don't bring. And it helps unlock a new kind of like portion of the playbook. So I really want to see the Buccaneers have that ability. And then he does have an injury history as well. So it kind of all ties in. But yeah, Keanu, Tristan, even Zyon, like if you watch the clip, I think Pewter Report was able to tweet it out where it looks like he pulls up. He pulls up, but it's kind of like at the end of the route, he's kind of like, ooh, like, hey, there's a little pinch there. That might be something that we need to look at. And then they held him out the rest of practice. It's not like he, there's degrees of strains and pulls, right? And you see guys clutch and fall and all those things. It wasn't one of those. So I think, again, as unmedically trained as I am, I think we're okay right now. We just need to avoid the big hammers from falling, outside of like Ryan Jensen. And I think we'll be okay. And again, Julio, even though he's missing some practices, not playing, he's not injured according to what we're being told. He's healthy. He's just getting back into this groove of things.
Yeah, and real quick, one more name that we do need to mention that suffered an injury in the joint practices was wide receiver Tyler Johnson, who's been having an outstanding camp. He had a right leg or potentially ankle injury, according to Rick Stroud. That's my bad. I should have put it in with the list. Totally spaced on it. So did want to mention that before we moved on, because David, there is some potential good news coming out of these joint practices, and that is that rookie guard Luke Gedeke was seen taking reps with the first team on Thursday. Bowles told the media on hand, quote, "Now is the time to give him a look. You can't put him in early because he hadn't learned everything. He's learned enough now to go in and play. We're giving all these guys shots at guard, and his time has come," end quote.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to yesterday's episode, Scott Smith joining us, Buccaneers senior writer and editor. And we talked about this. We talked about the fact that Gedeke hadn't been getting reps with the first team. Aaron Stinney, it looked like maybe this was going to be his week. Again, Todd Bowles kind of talking about wanting to see guys in there in chunks, not just for a couple plays and then switch them out, stuff like that. But maybe it's actually going to be Gedeke's time to show his stuff. I mean, Aaron Stinney, look, appreciate everything that he did during the postseason running into the Super Bowl, but talking to people, on the ground there in Tampa, it just really didn't look like he was really anything special. Call him a solid offensive lineman, and that's not an insult in any kind of way. It just kind of is what it is. And so if you have a guy in a second round rookie that you feel like could be a little bit special or maybe an upgrade, then absolutely you want to go ahead and give him that chance.
Yeah, and finally, real quick, we would be remiss if we did not mention that practice on Thursday actually ended a little bit early because Sugar Ray Lenny Fournette decided to punch Justin Simmons in the face, and benches cleared, and there was a full-blown kerfuffle. And the coaches are like, all right, that's it. We're done. And so, yeah, we got playoff Lenny, Lombardi Lenny, leftover Lenny, Sugar Ray Lenny. That's just, it's the evolution of Lenny, and I'm here for it. So a lot of twists and turns in the Bucs preseason already, and we're going to get into some things that we hope we will see on Saturday night. Maybe even make a bold prediction or two. But first, life is full of twists and turns, and it's important to show up for yourself through it all. BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. I've told all of you about the time that I had a very, very serious back surgery back when I was 15 years old, and I needed somebody that I could talk to that wasn't just a family member, wasn't just a friend, somebody that I knew could help me through this process of a very, very scary situation. My parents sought out therapy for me, and it worked wonders. BetterHelp is not a crisis line. It is not self-help. It is professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so that you don't have to be on camera if that's not something that you're comfortable doing. Getting therapy every week is as easy as a few clicks on your laptop or your phone. With therapy, it can take a few tries to find the right fit for you, and BetterHelp makes it easy and free to change therapists if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available for those that may need it. BetterHelp is a great way to invest in yourself. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional therapists in all 50 states. They have a special offer for our listeners. You can get a 10% discount on your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/lockedon. Wrapping things up here on a Friday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. David, the Bucs and Titans face off Saturday night at 7 p.m. For those of you out of market, this is live on NFL Network. It is one of, I think it's like 6 different preseason games this week that they are showing live. So you'll still get to catch the Bucs and Titans on Saturday if you're not in the Tampa or the Nashville markets. But let's get ready for the regular season, the way the teams are with our first players to watch, and then we're going to give our bold predictions. I'm going to start things off because I can, and that's what I'm going to do. And look, there's no Mike Evans. There's no Brashad Perryman. Chris Godwin's not going to play. Now you got Tyler Johnson dealing with an injury. My player to watch was a guy that absolutely tore it up at practice on Thursday, and that is wide receiver Deven Thompkins. David, we have spoken repeatedly about the stiff competition at the wide receiver position. Tyler Johnson has emerged in a way that I don't think many of us expected. Jalen Darden has emerged in a way that I don't think anybody expected, except maybe just Jalen Darden. You have Scotty Miller, who's playing really, really well. And all of a sudden, Deven Thompkins is emerging here in this week of joint practices and kind of midway through training camp as a very viable threat. So if he's able to put some things together in this game and continue to keep himself in the race for one of these final wide receiver spots, he has a ton to offer, and I'm excited to see what he can do. But he was absolutely roasting Titans DBs on Thursday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Easily one of my favorite players of training camp so far, just from hearing about him and then seeing him with my own 2 eyes there in Tampa while we were down there. And Scott, like you mentioned, Scotty Miller too, another one who looks super quick and definitely much healthier than the last time that we saw him in person. So that's a good player to watch. Truth be told, you stole my guy, James. You stole my guy. I'm looking at Logan Hall, the first draft pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his last year's draft class, a second-round draft pick. But I'm looking at Logan Hall. Look, he's not going to be a starter. That's not the expectation, I don't think, right? Playing behind Akeem Hicks, and we don't have any 100% confirmation that these guys are even going to play. But Todd Bowles did say that more starters, more of these players will play than they did last week. So I'm thinking you probably want to get Logan Hall in the mix, a little bit more than we've seen already. So not only will he play, but I expect him to play more than we've seen already. And I want to see what the young fella can do. I want to see the growth from week 1 to week 2. And I do plan on going back and watching week 1 and then watching week 2 again to see where that growth has occurred. Now, moving into our bold predictions, I like to get really bold with my bold predictions. We talked about this all the time. James comes in with like the spicy Cheetos, right? I come in with the fire Cheetos. That's the level of bold predictions we go here. Kyle Trask, quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was about to say something else, but I'm not going to light that fire. 78% completion rate is what he will have against the Tennessee Titans, James. And before anybody go out there shakes their head at me, 78% is what he completed against the Miami Dolphins. Very quietly, by the way. A lot of people not really talking about the efficiency rating of one young Kyle Trask. Even with the interception and the fumble, that was a rough stretch. Even with the interception and the fumble, still finished with over 95 QBR. I mean, that's a pretty good day.
It's a good day.
Listen, of all the quarterbacks that played in the preseason, Kyle Trask had the third highest completion percentage in week 1 of all quarterbacks that threw 15 or more passes. Now, Kyle threw 33 of them, okay? But I couldn't just keep it to like 33 or more because it was like Kyle and one other dude, probably the Dolphins guy, right? Like there's like 2 guys who threw the ball 33 times in preseason. So I narrowed it down a little bit to 15. You know who those two other quarterbacks were that had a better completion rate, and it was like a 5% difference between them and him? Tyler Huntley from Baltimore, who I will tell you, covering a team in the Commanders who were on a quarterback hunt this offseason, a lot of people think he's got starting quarterback talent and ability. So Tyler Huntley's one. The other, first-round draft pick Kenny Pickett.
Oh.
So that's who Kyle Trask is playing like. It's preseason. I got it. Calm down. It's preseason. But listen, that's who he was with in company in his first week. So my bold prediction, he's going to hit that mark again. 78% completion rate. 3 touchdowns, James. 3 of them. No turnovers.
I love that.
That's my bold prediction. Joshua Garner, don't ever at me on Twitter saying that I'm trashing Kyle Trask again.
I was gonna laugh so hard if you swapped that and said, tell me that I'm trasking Kyle Trash again.
Trasking Kyle Trash, yeah. Just kidding, Joshua. I knew. By the way, Joshua, I knew like we were good. He brought like I responded very short on Twitter to what he was saying to me. It's not because like I took it any sort of way. I was literally in the middle of Commanders camp, so actually I was taking time out of my other football assignment to respond to you. So hopefully you take that as a sign of some sort of respect. But anyway,
yeah, I mean, I hope Trask plays well. He obviously showed last week against the Dolphins that he can put it together, and he can put it together.
Future Hall of Famer. Retired number 2 now.
Let's calm down. Let's calm down right now.
The best number 2 quarterback, number 2 wearing quarterback since Terrell Pryor, James.
Terrell Pryor was terrible.
He really was. All right, I'm sorry. Let's go.
You know who's not going to have 78% completion percentage and multiple touchdowns and no turnovers?
Tom Brady.
Malik Willis.
Oh, Malik Willis probably
was getting destroyed by the Bucs defense in these joint practices. And for a secondary last week against the Dolphins that did not look good, you had Zyon beat on a double move for a wide open touchdown. The secondary looked a little discombobulated at times. They're going to get it together this weekend, and I'm calling it. They are going to get 2 takeaways against the Tennessee Titans. Maybe they're both against Malik Willis. Maybe they're not. But
still count either way.
The secondary alone will get 2 takeaways. I'm not saying that Tampa won't get more, but it's going to be the safeties and the corners that are going to be taking the ball away multiple times after a rough showing against the Miami Dolphins.
I can't wait for Jamel Dean to tip a pass and for Levante David to intercept it.
I don't think either of them are going to be playing in this game.
Levante might not play. I think Jamel plays. I don't think Levante might not play, but I think Jamel plays.
I don't think Jamel plays.
That's what we should do. We're out of time, but we should do like a who's going to play predictions.
I will my bold player prediction. There we go. Is Julio Jones will not play.
Julio Jones will not play. It's not bold. That's pretty sure it's already confirmed.
Neither will Mike Evans or Chris Godwin.
Yeah, or Tom Brady.
Or Tom Brady.
Mr. Bold guy.
You know who else is not going to play this weekend? Deshaun Watson. Before we get out of here, it is worth mentioning the NFL and NFLPA did agree on Thursday to an 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine for Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson. And that means his first game eligible to return with the Cleveland Browns is the week after they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which means we will be in for the epic quarterback showdown of Jacoby Brissett versus Blaine Gabbert, because Todd Bowles isn't worried about Tom Brady.
Kyle Trask.
Yeah, Tom Brady's return. So maybe Brady's not back until after Browns week. Who knows?
Trask versus Brissett. You know who will see Deshaun Watson?
The Washington Commanders.
That's right. And so will I, because that's 5 weeks after he's eligible to return. So you figure by week 5. I don't know. You know, this isn't Locked On Browns, but maybe the Browns are like 1-10 by the time Deshaun's eligible. And they're like, you know what? We're good. See you in 2023, brother.
Yeah. And then they'll have a top 5 pick and they can get
they draft CJ Stroud and everybody loses their minds.
Whoever drafts CJ Stroud is a fool.
That would be the most Brownsy thing ever, though.
They will probably sign or draft an elite talent from a hole on their roster. I don't know their roster well enough to know who's going to be, what position is going to be weak. They probably end up going with the number 1 receiver in the draft to pair up with Amari. That'd be my guess. But again, I don't know their roster well enough to know what they would need. But anyway, you're right. This is not Locked On Browns. This is Locked On Bucs. And we are going to thank all of you for making the Locked On Bucs podcast your first listen or review of the day. Now make Locked On Fantasy Football your second listen. Find the intellectual fantasy expert Vinny Iyer, who brings over 20 years of NFL expertise and a unique angle to give you the moves no one else has. Get ready for your fantasy draft with Locked On Fantasy Football. We will be back on Monday with all the reaction to the preseason victory over the Tennessee Titans, where Kyle Trask finishes with a perfect quarterback rating and Malik Willis has 7 turnovers. If you have reactions to the game, questions, players that you want to talk about, of course, you can give us a call at 813-444-5841 or send us an email to lockedonbuckspodcast@gmail.com. Check out David's work over at bucksgameday.com. Check out my work over at bucksnation.com, and make sure you're following everything on Twitter at LockedOnBucks, at JYarcho_Bucks, and at DHarrison82. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire those cannons. We thank you so much for joining us right here at Locked On Bucs.